Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here to review Teen Wolf Season 2, Episode 3 and 4, because every one of these episodes are 40 minutes long, as well as also just to always be long-witted regardless. So, with that said, I'm very happy that a good majority of people really wanted Teen Wolf to come back as a review of series. I'm glad that also that Teen Wolf really did a good number of numbers because I just kind of left it and really wasn't going to go on and check much of my numbers until logically me just kind of going read through thumbnails and be like, oh yeah, I guess this series popped up. Oh, I guess this series did really well because like I just keep doing shows and movies endlessly, and so there's so much stuff that just is on here that I just forget. Like I just don't have time to look through everything and just kind of and look back to the past because there's so many things I have to just keep going forward with. So I wish I could say that I missed this show because of how really good the episodes were when going into this. But yeah, like I said, like a lot of things just keep getting pushed to the forefront that a lot of stuff just gets lost along the way or never get back to finishing something. So Teen Wolf, these bit of episodes, I gotta say, there is so much going on, and when there isn't an alpha werewolf to be making its way through town, there is always some kind of monsterish thing that is just making its way through the town. And we find that within this episode, it's to be none other than a Kamina, as I would like to pronounce it Kamina, but Kamina, I guess, is how it's pronounced, by Derek. So we come to find that there is this this is a paralyzing uh, toxin that is to be coming from this monstrous creature that is to be killing people, but not like eating them or doing weird things to them. Just weirdly, just needing to see them die. And I'm like, okay, that's just kind of strange. So we find out that Scott is kind of really having his hands full with like a town full of secrets, it seems. Everybody just kind of hiding something right now. It's kind of just, we're going to go on and we're going to find that Dr. Allen has his own super secret, of which that when Allen kind of confronts him with it, he's like $2 an hour more, and Scott is just like, huh? Like that's not really what I was wanting to talk about. It's like $2 and 50 cents, and Scott's like, okay, all right, well, I guess we're just gonna go on and just kind of sweep that under the rug. So we have Scott that is also dealing with the passing of two ships with him and Allison, how they want a relationship, but then they, if they want to have one, have to secretly have one because of how Allison's family is to know what Scott is and doesn't trust him. They kind of bring up Romeo and Juliet at this point, but then also they nix that whole thing because eventually how the story tends to end with that couple, every single iteration of it. So it's funny to the point to where Styles has to kind of run back and forth and kind of send them messages. And also, like, they have to kind of like talk behind their backs, and I just think that's kind of interesting and fun. So about how they're still trying to like make this work, but then also it's to go on and be this just secret live. So, and I like how like Scott is going on and having to deal with that family, and like the father is like goozling his neck and and threatening him, and it's so fun. So as well as also Scott gets a stab in the chest while trying to retrieve his mother from her job. So by being the nice son. So Scott is also going on and dealing with Derek. As I have to go on and kind of relearn these names, at some point things will kind of get like lost by me. So Derek, it seems, is going on and siring people. He's going on bringing people into the fold because I guess Jackson was a lost cause. Because all Jackson really can do is go on and stare at people and just be angry or annoyed or just be like, man, I really would like a line right now, but I don't have one. So I just have to look at people and just be like, I'm still here looking and just being either annoyed or angry or something. I have no idea what that look consistently is. But anyways, and then when he does have dialogue, it effing sucks. But that's not his fault. It's just his character. So anyways, we have Scott dealing with Derek, and Derek, of course, still has Isaac, the guy who was abused by his father, put in a fridge, and that's his claim to fame. He's the put in the fridge guy. Yeah, whatever. He was abused by his dad. So Derek goes on to find this girl, Erica, and Erica is going on and climbing on this rock climbing thing in gym, which I'm like, when do they have those in a gym? Like, I guess maybe like modern day like rock climbing is actually the best for you because it is to make you like the overall like most strengthened you could probably get through your entire body. Like, it's a really good idea for people to, I think, take rock climbing over anything else because it just makes you very strong overall. It's kind of like going on and doing farmers walks, unless you get injured with them, because I did that. At the very tail end of my farmers walk, I got injured doing it, and like, oh well, I guess there's always uh, a give and take from that. But anywho, so we have Erica who's climbing on this rock climbing thing. She gets scared, and then everybody starts giving her backstory of who she is. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. So they're saying that this character is going to have some kind of importance. So Erica goes onto the hospital because she has seizures, and eventually she has one. So that's where she meets up with Eric. He's going to kind of change her life. It's kind of like from Twilight when the guy that kind of becomes all the Twilight people's dads, it's all because he is to basically to have gone on and found them while they were having some weird random illness or disease or whichever, and they wanted to have them become vampires to kind of make their lives better instead of worse, or they would have died at a much earlier age, or blah 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 blah. So Derek goes on to make Erica one of them, and then Erica has to go on and do a slow motion bite of the apple. Why do we always have to do creepy things with apples on the show? If anything, forever I will be changed by ever looking at an apple and not thinking that it's something connected to a weird thing. It's strange. So Erica goes on, nibbles this apple, and then eventually the slow motion stops. But anyways, so Stiles and Scott follow Erica to find that she is to be with Derek. And then eventually, when there is to be Isaac and there is Erica, there is to go on and eventually be more. And so Scott and Stiles have to figure out, like, okay, who's going to be the next person that Derek is going to try to get to. And so Stiles goes on and meets with Boyd to try to get these keys. And so there's a haggle of the price because Stiles in the future is going to go on and have to deal with a car that costs him $1,200 to fix, maybe more. And it'll be okay because eventually his mechanic will go on and get killed, so he probably won't have to pay that bill, right? So Styles goes on to eventually have his car impounded, so he won't even be able to use the car that ends up getting fixed. So he's kind of effed all around. So, well, he'll have to pay to get his car unimpounded, right? The more you know. So, Styles goes on to get these keys and give them to Scott. And so we find out that they're the principal keys. And inevitably, we find that Gerard has this book. And Styles knows immediately what it is. It's a book that is to go on and know every bit of knowledge of what the uh of what the family is to know about monsters. And we'd go on to see the same exact book, well, not same exact, but like a book very similar in the show Grimm. If you've never seen Grimm, if anything, the monsters are very CG-ish, so some people may not enjoy the show that way. But if anything, like Grimm is actually pretty interesting as far as like the German monsters, the Fuchsbaus, and all these kind of things. And the way it all gets kind of put together is actually fairly interesting. So if you like Supernatural, you could probably like Grimm if you can find it somewhere. But anyways, so Styles goes on and is to say the name of this book, which eventually both Allison and both Scott think that it's something else to deal with some weird animal stuff. So, and I'm kind of worried about if I'm to go on and say this actual name, if I'm even going to say it right, or otherwise have problems with. Like, I think it was like Bestial or something. Is a weird book. Is a weird name of a book. So we have them try to figure out where this book is, and they think that it's just an actual book. Both Allison and Scott try to hunt it down later and find that it's just a cookbook, and they're like, oh, well, maybe we've gotten into modern times and it's actually just a USB. So they go on and they obtain the USB. So Scott Scott is going on. Excuse me. Scott is going on and doing this lacrosse game, which Allison is to be present to. So while that's going on, Styles is being handed off this bit of keys to go into this office to rifle through this stuff to eventually not be able to find the book. And then he goes on, meets up with Derek and Erica, and Derek is like, okay, spill the beans about this thing that you saw. So so Styles goes on and explains the reptilish creature of which that he had gone on to see. And also we have Chris and we have Garrick that are going on and asking Dr. Allen about somebody that gotten like clawed through their body and then also had a gash on their neck and is trying to figure out the cause of death here. And Dr. Allen has mentioned about how this creature is to have been has toxin to this person and paralyzed them. So Scott and Allison figure out where the book is. They go on and they scroll through it. And at some point, Scott has to make his way back to the school and goes on to find that Styles and Derek are in trouble because eventually Derek will get paralyzed and So Styles has to choose either Derek or his phone. And guess what Styles chooses? If anything, Derek kind of deserves it, but if anything, like Derek also mentions about how valuable he is to Styles, and it makes a lot of sense. It's a pretty good argument. So, also the thing that didn't make sense in this scene here, if Derek could have just laid flat on the water, he would have floated regardless of the clothes that he had on. It didn't matter how much clothes he would have had. He would have been able to float if Styles would have just got on and laid him flat on the water. He wouldn't have drowned it here. Neither would have Styles. They could have just gone on and laid on the water, and the lizard creature would have never gotten to them. But that would not have been an exciting bit of episode now, would it? Nope. So, but also they also realized that the monster seems to be afraid of water. Don't know why. I guess it never swam. A reptile that can't swim, that seems a little weird, but whatever. Like, whatever the story needs to be kind of written here to figure things out. So, but I guess we've also probably figured out its weakness. Maybe they'll drown it at some point in the future. But also, Allison is going on and getting trained by her father, which was really interesting in the beginning of this. So also Lydia is acting a little cray-cray. She's going on and being seemingly having all these illusions that lead her to Hale consistently. And we have Jackson, who's basically, when he has dialogue, he's just a whiny B-word baby. And he's treating Lydia like crap, which is basically to say that they're going to not be together. Jackson, it seems, will have thought that he was still a werewolf, but then he's not a werewolf. And he blames Lydia for it. And then at some point, Jackson goes on and is to test if he has any special abilities or not. He goes on to take this lacrosse stick and try to get to continue to hit this circle, and it fails. He goes on to pull this car and it fails. And so by the end of it, we have to see if Jackson really does have a special thing with him. And we'll come to find out that Jackson will have something very special about him that will make him very monsterish, to say the least. So I think that kind of covers most of the basis of these bit of episodes. I really liked the whole dinner thing where everybody's just kind of like untrusting of everybody, and they kind of have to figure out ways to make up stuff around Geralt to say that Allison dumped him, and when Chris and Scott go off and they're on their own, like Chris is goozling them, choking them, and threatening them. Pretty good. So all this really ends with Scott to have had a broken leg in the lacrosse game, and Scott making his way to the hospital to pick up his mother to eventually have a stab in his chest for his troubles. And so good people, I guess, can have bad things happen to them by the end of the tale here. So with that said, I think it's about that time to just push on into spoiler territory, because I think it's about that time to get into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about the time to get to spoil these episodes. Let me know in the comments below. What is your favorite thing about Teen Wolf. Maybe it's the movies, maybe it's the show, maybe it's a certain character. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know in the comments below what is your favorite supernatural bit of content, because maybe at some point in the future I may go on and be able to review it. If it seems viable, if it seems like a thing that a lot of people could be jonesing about seeing review, then I would lovely, happily be able to do that. I would honestly like to do a lot more supernatural content. It's just like everything that I think is going to be something for supernatural, like it's very hard to and like I would love to go through every single little thing and hope that it does extremely well because of how much I really like supernatural content. But like really when I'm to go on and see how much numbers action content and superhero stuff does, like I'm just kind of pushed into a certain direction. As well as also I'm just kind of pushed into certain content and what have you, just because to just try to keep myself alive here and keep surviving. Uh, but anyways, to just kind of keep things afloat, and how a struggle that is every day. But boo-hoo for me, I get my violins out every once in a while. So, with that said, I'll go on and I'll talk about the future reviews. So, I'm honestly planning on continuing Spider Noir at some point. I'm gonna get back to it. Believe me, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to get back to it. Every single time I try to figure out like what am I gonna do Spider Noir, something else kind of pops in there. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm gonna not do Spider Noir today. So there are pieces of content that I feel will be a wild pitch to see if it does well. But like I'm gonna try to be very reasonable with my titles at this point because I feel I need to. Uh I do want to go on. I do want to do Birds of Prey. Uh, I'm getting itchier and itchier even more to cover that show. So at some point, I hope to do that. I know there's going to be a lot of plates that I'm kind of with shows that I've kind of just paused about, and I should have finished. I didn't, and I whatever. Uh, there were stuff that did really well on the channel that eventually I just kind of just stopped doing. There could have been a number of sequels that I could have done from a number of movie franchises, and I didn't. So, I don't know. It is what it is. So, Resident Evil will be a thing that I will finish at some point. Believe me, I even have thumbnails done of some of them. So I will finish that at least. I will. And also, I heard that Resident Evil Veronica is going to be a thing that's going to get released. So at some point, there's going to be another Resident Evil game that's probably going to get put out there. So good. Along with the newer movie that's going to come out at some point. So, which I think I can go and I can just watch that and not have to have any. Well, yeah, I've watched all the other movies, so I should be fine at this point. I've watched even the newer ones, so yeah, I should be good. Anyways, so uh other than that, yeah, like I'm gonna go on and there's a lot of superhero stuff that's still like Across the Spider Verse is still on the table. There's a lot of weird, goofy shows that I probably plan on doing. Hopefully, as long as they are to really be viable at this point to cover. I don't know. I've mentioned so many things before, like the Harrison Ford movie Fugitive. There's to be a good chunk of other things that I probably am going to go on and give you the stereotypical names of things that I'm thinking about reviewing. Because heaven forbid I instead of wanting to be more creative, I have to be less creative. Cause yeah, like the thing that honestly kind of just sucked about the channel is like when I started this channel, I wasn't really creative at all when I started it, because I already knew stuff that was really popular that kind of plopped out on the channel very early, and that was me being very uncreative. And then it just got to a point where I just started to, like, stuff started to further and further drop to where I just started to just be like, well, I'm just gonna just put out whatever at this point. And then I just got to the point where, like, well, like, I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna do projects that I'm happy with. And all of a sudden there was like a steamroll of like, hey, the things that I was happy with, like, people actually watch. Great. Um but I think now there's a point of just like, well, I feel like I should just be doing the projects that I think everybody's gonna try to watch the most in my brain noggin. Uh but like even that, it's just like, well, like it's just really hard to try to figure out um where I should all keep going, and hard to figure out how to stay happy about what I'm doing and always keep a momentum up of what I'm doing. Um so yeah, so it's just like, cuz this channel is way too much up and down. Way too much up and down. I like to be consistent at some effing point, but it's just the mistake of the choices I've made. But I don't know. I thought at this point that once I'd get to at least like certain number of subscribers or something, but like I guess, yeah, you just can't really uh you can't really rely on anything. I'd like to hope that I rely on anything, but I guess not. So I don't know. Maybe hopefully this will do well. I hope. Um, thank you for watching this. At this point, we're going to get to the point of the review where I'm just going to go for blow, scene for scene, what happens to the episode. There could be something that I could go on and I could probably say a little bit of commentary on, or anything that I was thinking during the episodes, but mostly it's just going to be me just kind of going through the episodes. I'm going to try to make this as funny as I can, because in my mind, I'm going to just try to just be goofy about it, because why not? Um, if anything, it's kind of funny, the scene between Styles and Erica, where Erica is like, well, hey, like, why aren't you looking me directly into my eyes? Like, why aren't you going on and looking at my body or anything like that? And Styles is just trying to be a gentleman. I'm like, good for you, Styles, because I'm going to go and I'm going to look up and down on this woman, because if anything, nobody's going to be judging me, except for you, the viewer, who are watching this, and also me just thinking about how just I'm I Googling a woman. Also, there's a point where Styles and Scott rush their way to Derek, and there was a scene of which that I reviewed in Sensation, where there's this guy who is picking up this woman, and this woman hates this guy. So immediately this was what pops to mind. So when Scott and Styles rush their way to find out that Erica is being picked up by Derek, and Derek has the cool shades, and Derek is like, hey, you know me, Derek? Yeah, me. The guy you don't like? I'm picking up Erica. You know the girl that everybody is oogling in this school? Yeah, I'm picking her up. Yeah, the guy you hate? Yeah. So but yeah, that's what I was thinking of the whole time. So with that said, let's get into the beginning of this. Luckily, I had this kind of queued up already. So spoilers now, everybody. Spoilers. So The beginning of this has Allison to have made her way to a gas station called Food Mart. How creative. So they can't all be winners. So Allison makes her way to the gas station and kind of turns to this guy on the motorcycle, who you eventually find is Bennett in the credits. Allison goes on and starts to pump her gas to eventually find that the gas station has all had their lights go out. The motorcycle guys are a passerby, and so Allison is just kind of looking around. Allison all of a sudden gets a bag thrown over her face, and she gets dragged off to this abandoned home, disheveled home, where eventually she meets up with Chris. Chris is to be tied to a chair as well as she is, so all of a sudden there's this weird saw kind of stuff going on in the background, and the dialogue is going on and mentioning about how, like, well, what would happen if your father got bitten and you need to escape? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, what is this, like Speed, where it's like where they're running through scenarios in her head? What would you do? Anyways, so whoa. Anyways, Allison is going on and looking at her father, and eventually Chris goes on and breaks the chair and gets free. And then he gets his gag off of his mouth. And then he has Bennett come in, and Chris grabs Bennett's phone. It's like, yeah, look at this. I recorded this ahead of time. So Allison has her gag come from her mouth, and she's saying, it's like, well, is this going to be our father daughter conversations now? Is this going to... So Chris is to tell Allison, well, this is me training you. So Chris goes on and mentions about arrows and why they use arrows instead of bullets. Allison goes on to mention that the arrows stick into the werewolves a lot longer because, if anything, the werewolves have to quickly heal. So I'm like, wow, that actually makes a lot of sense, and that actually is to be quite a bit of a, like, man, why didn't anybody think of that before? Like, we'd go on to see Blade, and he has these, like, silver bullet guns and whatever, and I'm like, yeah, that's great and all. But, like, the whole stake things, like, anyways. So Chris goes on and gives Allison an arrow, and then walks off and tells Bennett to time her. Oh, there's also a bit of conversation here where Chris says where kind of Allison's place is in the world because of her gender, pretty much, where she goes on to say that women end up turning into leaders, and I'm like, I can kind of give and take this dialogue. I don't like the whole gender thing, but I could like how, like, they're building up as this woman to be a leader. I like where that's going. So Chris walks off and they time her. So Allison goes on and she gets out of the house, and Bennett says time right next to this car. Bennett says congratulations, and Allison is like, what? It took me 2.5 hours. And Bennett's like, well, it took me 3 hours, so if anything, you're better than I am. So Allison's like, oh, okay, high five. No. So all of a sudden we cut to, in the background, a reptile-ish creature with weird claws, what we have to assume is the Kamina. The Kamina. God dang you, Derek, why do you have to pronounce it that way? Because I'm going to make fun of you the whole time. Anyways, so now we cut to Coach Babe's class, where he's going on and teaching rock climbing of all things. So we have Scott, we have Allison, and they're rock climbing. And the whole time, like, Allison is saying to Scott, it's like, well, hey, aren't you a werewolf? Aren't you going to be able to easily climb up this rock? Like, come on. Like, Show me your moves. And Scott is like, well, no, like, I'm going to go on and be behind you because maybe I like the view. Yeah. So eventually Scott does get the upper hand and is higher than she is. And then she's like, oh. But then she does grab Scott and he falls. And then Coach Bobby is going to mention about how he loves seeing Scott in pain. So Coach Bobby goes on to call up Styles and Erica to the climbing wall. So Styles goes on and goes all the way up and is successful. Erica goes on and tries to climb, and all of a sudden, Jackson in the background is like, I gotta go on and be more angry and just more, but I have to be off to the side more, like what's going on? So, a little bit of off to the side there. So, Erica is to take a big old pause, and we're a little confused whether or not she's just really afraid. She maybe has a fear of heights. They go and they talk about vertigo, which height vertigo is actually a thing. They say that it's something weird with somebody's eyes or something. But yeah, like height vertigo is a thing. Like I am to go on and look at really like tall areas and I'm just like, ugh, like I freak out. There's sometimes where like I can't really handle really high places. Um and it's understandable. Like yeah, there's sometimes where uh like I've tried to conquer this fear, but then also I'm just like, man, this sucks. Um anyways, so people are asking if Erica is possibly dizzy, and I think Allison goes on to mention that Erica tends to have epileptic seizures. And Coach Bobby's like, well, hey, why didn't I know about that? Isn't that something that I should be told about? So Bobby goes on and tries to convince Erica. It's like, well, hey, uh, you're tied to a rope. All you have to do is just let go. Like, we can just drop you down. And eventually Erica does drop down, and then Scott just kind of looks at her off in the like. There's something about that girl. So we turn to then Erica later on. Erica is determined to climb this wall without anybody looking at her, so that way maybe the next time she's in class, when she goes and completely climbs the wall and she accomplishes it, maybe people won't make fun of her. So we cut to Coach Bubby. Bobby goes on to mention about how since Isaac is now missing, that if anything, if anybody is to see Isaac, to call the principal or anything. I think he says to call him, but then he goes on and says, well, no, don't call me. Specifically you, one person, don't call me. And it's kind of a funny bit here. So Styles goes on and passes Jackson, and Jackson has to go on and do another. How that's a twofer now. Like we have to go on, we have to do a countdown of how many times Jackson has to go and do a vicious look now. Like that's a thing. Like god dang it. Like it's good that Jackson is having this camera time, but also it's just like it's kind of getting annoying all the just the looking that he's doing. Like I hope it doesn't hurt his neck. I hope so, or I hope not so. Anyways, uh, so Erica is going on and climbing this wall as Styles and Scott. Styles is trying to get Scott to go with him, uh, so that way they can go on and meet up with Lydia and Allison at a skating rink. And Scott is saying to Styles, like, well, do you really think with a time like this, of somebody going missing, we should really go on and go out somewhere? And Styles is like, man, I really want to go out somewhere. I want to go into multiple positions somewhere. And he's kind of going on and saying that he wants to have sex with somebody, but it doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen with Styles on this show at some point fairly early. So Anyways, so we cut to Erica. Erica is seemingly having a little bit of struggle upon that rock climbing thing again, to where all of a sudden Scott is to know what's going on with Erica and quickly runs to her and catches her before he falls. Or before Erica falls. My bad. This moment here really just has Scott straight up feel like Superman. And it's too strange. And for him to get there right at the nick of time to catch her just does not seem right. But whatever, it's just entertaining for the show. So Scott lets Erica down on the ground, and Allison is there to tell Scott to turn Erica to the side, because that'll be best to deal with her seizure. Not going on putting anything in her mouth, because if anything, Erica has a story where that didn't quite be the best thing for her to do. So, Erica is now to be at the Beacon Hills Memorial Hospital. So, Miss McCall, with the dialogue that she's having with Erica here, is to have honestly been lost by me, most of it. But if anything, let's talk about her medication and talking about a girl for her age and all this kind of stuff. So, eventually Miss McCall goes on and leaves. I don't know if it's Mrs. I'm going to go with Miss McCall, and if anybody wants to correct me, maybe it's doctor or nurse or whatever, go ahead and do so. If anyways, I don't remember what McCall's first name is, because heaven forbid I go and look at straight up a lot of this cast list, because I'm just trying to get through this review. So Erica goes on and gets dragged out of her room on her bed via Isaac to the morgue. Strange. She's not dead yet. So Derek starts to talk about the side effects of Erica's seizure medication, anxieties, and all kinds of things. So Erica goes on to ask Derek, "Who are you?" He's a friend of their mutual friend. So, like, as if he really knows anybody. So Derek goes on and asks Erica, it's like, well, hey, whenever you go on, you have a seizure. What is that? It's like, oh, like right before I have it, it's a thing called an aura that I have. It's like, like that's the thing that goes on and attracts you to so many of our kind because you have an aura about you. So that was the whole thing where all the signals were being fired off by all those guys because of Erica's aura. So Derek goes on to mention to Erica, it's like, well, hey, before that happens, how do you know that you're having a seizure? And Erica's like, well, I have a metal taste in my mouth. He's like, no. Be honest with me. And she's like, well, I have a blood taste in my mouth. It's like, okay, all right, well. So Derek goes on and says to Erica, it's like, well, what if I could make the seizures go away? What if I could make your life even better? And Erica's like, well, like, how? And Derek says, well, let me show you. And then his eyes glow red, and we have to assume he gets a little nibble. He gets a little snack. He gets a snacky poo. So now we cut to Jackson, and here's a bit of dialogue where it seems that he's not annoying. I'm sorry, actor who plays Jackson, but all he does is gives a good old one of these for most of this show. So Jackson is going on in a what looks like science class, and there's a video about vaccines and about immunities and stuff like that going on, and some video in the background, which eventually will have Jackson talk to Lady about her immunity that has ruined his life. But anyways, before we get to that, so Jackson is talking to Matt, the guy he borrowed his camera from, so that way he could take videos of him while he was sleeping. So Matt is talking about how Jackson had cracked the lens and how this is really an expensive camera, and Jackson tells Matt to bill him. So once Jackson sees the video talking about immunity, Jackson gives a good old tilt to Lydia and then follows her outside of the class as she walks off. Jackson goes on to grab Lydia and so Jackson is upset that Lydia didn't have anything happen to her because it seems that she's immune. But if anything, when Jackson thinks about it, it's like there's something in Lydia's body that's like a blood or saliva that was to cause him to possibly be immune or had changed him. And if anything, he feels that Lydia had ruined him being a monster. And so he walks off. Lydia is to start to be becoming upset, and Jackson starts to do a kind of look back, and then he's like, "Well, whatever." Like I said what I said. So Lydia goes in the bathroom to have a good old poo cry, and as she goes on and is really having that good old, like, really just letting it all hang out, all of a sudden there's to be a bit of bare feet that appear right in front of her bathroom stall, where she's going on saying, "Occupy, this is girl's bathroom." So we'd have to assume that I think that this character is the younger version of Hale, the guy who was the alpha werewolf who died at some point in the season 1. So, or this is Hale regardless. So Lydia goes on to follow said barefooted man because that seems like a sound thing to do, right? Lydia, you're stupid. How about you don't follow the barefooted man and and you live to fight another day? So Lydia follows barefooted man to a trophy case, and eventually the trophy ends up saying Hale's name on it, and then we see Hale. So cut to then Stiles making his way to the lunchroom where he talks to Boyd, who it seems is to be all on his own in this table because maybe he either wants it that way or eventually he is just to be having a problem with having no friends. Sorry, Boyd. Maybe you'll get some at some point in the future when you go on and join a apprentice program of which that'll make you become a werewolf. So, because this is spoilers at this point. Come on, guys. So Stiles is going on like, okay, you got the keys, and Boyd's like, well, you got the money. Stiles goes on and slaps the 20 down, and then Boyd is like, well, hey, you got to give me more than that. We agreed to 50. So as Stiles is hesitant to go on and give him that money, and they talk about Stiles' car and Boyd's bus, inevitably Stiles does go on and give him the 50. He gets the keys, and Stiles hands over the keys to Scott as he leaves Boyd's table. So, if anything, we should remember that Boyd is to have a table all by himself, and eventually they'll go and bring back that up. That it's like, wait a minute, where is Boyd? Shouldn't he be at his table where he only sits alone at? So as Stiles and Scott are eating their bit of lunch, all of a sudden everything is to be slowed down. Erica starts to psh her way into the lunchroom, And not that she's turned into Godzilla. I'm just saying that she is going on and being profoundly like everybody's looking at her. Good looking woman. Anyways, so Erica goes on and takes this apple and if I were that one guy that she took the apple from, like, he was gonna eat that motherfucker. Erica goes on and takes the apple and leaves, and then Lydia is upset because somebody stole her wardrobe. Straight up. Yeah, Erica and Lydia, their outfits look the exact frickin' same, as well as also almost her hairstyle is almost the exact frickin' same as Lydia. And again, here's where we have Jackson, who's weirdly looking. So Scott and Styles chase off after Erica, and here's where we find Derek is picking Erica up, and Derek's like, "Hey, the guy you hate." So Scott is just so upset that Derek looked so cool and was driving off with Erica that he goes on and he breaks the next thing that he sees at his veterinarian job. He purposely, on accident, drops this thing and is to make it go crash. So Dr. Allen comes in and is to say a bunch of gobbledygook that make no sense to me, but he says it anyways because this actor is to actually be a person that is to have to say some difficult lines. So, if anything, I hope he got paid well that day. Probably not. So, Dr. Allen goes on and is to be talking to Scott about, hey, what's on your mind? Penny for your thoughts? Or $2 and change for your thoughts? So, the more that Dr. Allen starts talking about natural ways of the universe and all this other blah, 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 I'm just like, okay, let's get to the real point here. Scott at one point talks to Dr. Allen and asks him, it's like, well, hey, shouldn't we really get to the... Should we really talk about what we really should be talking about here? And Dr. Allen's like, what do you mean? And it's like, and so Dr. Allen's like, $2. And Scott's like, what? $2.50. More an hour? And Scott's like, oh, sure, but yeah, I didn't think that was going to be what we were going to talk about. Okay, sure, yeah, all right. Cool. If only other places were so easy to give raises that. If anything, I would have gone on and had a more illustrious career than I really had in my life. So they go on and they clean up the mess. And shortly thereafter that, as I have to figure out a words of which to can kind of get me a transitional thing here as I'm trying to think of what to say next. We have Allison who is with Lydia in her room, and Chris has Allison kind of to be pulled over to the front of the door. So Lydia is probably not hearing any of this, right? Which doesn't make any sense to me. But anyways, so Chris is going on and pulling Allison aside and saying like, yeah, you know what I think we really need you to kind of look after Lydia because you're not evidently doing that already. But we really want you to go on and really put an eye on her. Like, really go on and just really watch everything that she does. I mean, scrupulously. Like, you have to be like an inch from her face and just be like watching her at all times. So, Allison doesn't think that Lydia is anything to be watching over. And if anything, Lydia at some point goes on and is doing something that makes her to be like her normal self. And so, we kind of resolve that. So, Scott, Styles, Lydia, Allison have made their way to the ice rink. So, I'm not going to go on and make fun at all about how Scott is to go on and ice skate. Because me, myself, have never been exactly coordinated on rollerblades. So, what am I to say about ice skating? But if anything, yeah, Scott does go on and does a little bit of whoa, there's a little bit of wah, there's a ooh. Anyways, so, but anywho, so Styles is going on and handing Lydia something orange to wear, and Lydia will not wear it because it clashes with her blue clothes. So Styles is like, "What are you talking about?" And Lydia's like, "Well, blue and orange, the color scheme doesn't make sense." And Styles is like, "It's the color of the New York Mets." And Lydia's like, "I don't care." So if it seems that she's not really into orange, then maybe she won't be into some Reese's that are from an orange container. And then Lydia's into that. So if I would have been in Styles, it'd been like $2. Like, where's my money? What did you think I was just gonna give it to you free? Man, I should have asked for a kiss for an exchange of this, but no. Anyways, so Styles goes on to mention how like people could probably be really a thing to work well together. And Lydia's like, "Well, yeah, Scott and Allison are a pretty good couple. Look at them, like they're really made for one another." And Styles is like, "No, I meant somebody else." And Lydia's like, "Well, yeah, that's Scott and Allison. Yeah, they're really good. They're really good." And Styles is like, "No, that's not what I meant." And Lydia's like, "Yes." No, I'm not really. That's not what really happened. When I'm just kind of making a joke here. So, if anything, Styles is going to realize that Lydia is not going to really be just open to the whole relationship thing so easily. So Scott and Allison get on the skating rink floor. I was gonna try to make that sound cooler, but it didn't happen. So Lydia gets on to the ice skating rink also, and it seems that she is to go on and to have had some moves because like Lydia is going on and doing all this like ice skating, twirling and all this stuff, and I'm just like, man, did you just do that out of the womb or what? Like like Lydia is like, man, is she blading it up? It's pretty good. So even Sal's is like, huh? So we get to a point where Scott falls on his ass, because of course he does. And we have Lydia who is going on to finding flower petals in an ice rink. Makes sense. So Lydia's going on and following, like breadcrumbs, these flower petals to eventually find a flower, and then eventually she finds in this ice that there is a man who's like, in a tail. He's like, help me. And then Lydia loses her mind. Styles, excuse me, Styles is there to comfort her. And eventually the rest of the group will go on and they'll help her out. But if anything, it'll just take a while. Because, of course, Scott and Allison are going on and they're taking photos together. Oh, how cute and adorable, right? So they go on, and at first they do the her kind of pictures, and then they kiss, and they look so adorable. And then come to find out that the pictures are kind of ruined because of Scott and his eyeballs, it seems. I don't know what that means. But anyways, so, but there is like one good picture. They saved that, and it's like, okay, at least we got a consolation prize here. So, so Scott and Allison run out when they hear Lydia screaming, or they maybe wait another minute past that. We don't want to deal with her. Anyways, so Scott eventually bumps into Erica in this, what looks like almost locker room. And so here's where Erica goes on and talks to Scott about the time of which that she had a seizure, and instead of people helping her out, that they recorded it on their phones. Oh yeah, she's having a seizure. What a horrible a-hole people that person is. Oh yeah, we might as well record this. What kind of a-hole people would go on and do that? So at some point it seems that somebody was having the bright idea to put something in this girl's mouth, which was wrong to do, because eventually they'd find that you shouldn't go on and do something like that. Like I think they were trying to hold down her tongue, uh, but if anything, that wasn't going to be something good to do. So Erica goes on and is to get very close to Scott, and then Allison kind of pops her head out, and Erica walks off. At some point, Scott will go on and tell Allison, it's like, well, hey, like, what you saw, like, it was just her trying to put the moves on me, and I wasn't interested. And they start to talk about if Allison is just kind of jealous or not about that. But if anything, Scott only has eyes for Allison. We obviously know that, or we understand that. So their love is eternal, it seems. So we come to find that Allison's mother, which I won't bother to go on and have the name of, I just won't. So Allison's path is to make her way through Allison's books of geometry. Yeah, freaking haunt me with geometry, right? Yeah. In high school, I had went to do a geometry class, and the teacher within that class is kind of an a-hole anyways. But this woman decided that she wanted to fail me in that class. So I'm like, great. So I hated doing math anyways, and this woman failed me. And so I had to go on and figure out other ways within my school years to just get enough math credits to be able to graduate. Because any other class would have passed me, but not her. Because she was different. But I guess, like, there's gonna try to be an abolishment of No Child Left Behind or whatever. But there are honestly a lot of students that are just kind of going through the motions when they go through high school anyways. So like there's some people that they love school, and then there's some people that just want to do it just to get the GED. So if anything, like it got to the point of me where I got to like the later along in the high school where I was just like, I just don't want to be up at 8 in the morning to go to school. Like I wish I could go on and make my own schedule when I can go to school. Um, like there was a time where in my senior year, like I was gonna get my school hours kind of cut in half, and that didn't work out. Like they ended up having to reschedule my whole entire year um, because of just some program that they couldn't get me in. So I don't know. It's just like by my senior year, I was just like, I just want to do anything that I can just to graduate. Like I was just so done with school. Like college was interesting to me, but like I just wanted to just graduate. Like I was so burnt out with schooling. But if anything, like it just felt like work eventually just kind of replaced school in a way. Where it's just like, okay, you have to go to a place for 8 hours when you don't want to. Um, and there was times where it's like, I was just having to get up earlier and earlier just to go to a job that was so labor intensive that, yeah, it just was an experience that, um, I wish I could have made different decisions. I wish I could have gone on and done other things. Uh, I wish I'd have gone on and found a way to make my life a lot happier than what it really was, because I wasn't happy. But anyways, so Allison's mother was to go on and open this geometry book, and there's a note in it that says, "Because I love you." So Allison's mom, after going on and finding this note, decides that she's going to take a knife and cut her arm open. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this show's a little bit weird. But then I come to find shortly thereafter that Allison is going on and meeting up with Scott's mother, Miss McCall, and they're sewing her up. And she's like, oh, I don't need anesthetic. Like, you can just go on. You can just sew me up. And it's like, are you sure? She's like, yeah. Like, man, what a tough one. Well, yeah, she just cut her own arm. I'm sure, like, just sewing her back. Like, I don't know how many times she's probably been stabbed or any other things by werewolves and all kinds of stuff. So, I'm sure this is nothing to her. So, so here's where we cut to Allison and Scott. There are two different tables, and they're kind of talking to one another. And here's where they bring up the whole jealousy thing. And so Allison is talking about, okay, so Erica has to go on and be with Derek, right? Because of how different she is out of nowhere, right? And they must assume that Isaac must be with Derek too. That's why he's been missing. So Allison brings up her grandfather, and Erica is talking about how there's going to be a war brewing, or there's a battle coming. And like, which side is Scott going to be on is kind of like an interesting thing to just kind of figure out here. But also, it seems that Derek, with the people that he's with, the people that he's siring, it seems that Derek also feels that there's something building up here, and that he needs to train his people the best that he can, because he feels that there's something big on the horizon, and he's not really sure what, but he needs to go and he needs to train them to kind of get them trained well enough. So here's where Stiles meets up with Scott and notices that Boyd is not there. They're trying to figure out who could possibly be the next person that Derek is going to get to, and it inevitably ends up being Boyd of all people. So Scott and Stiles make their way to find where Boyd is. There's a bit of dialogue that I think that I want to go on, and I just want to skip through here just to get past this. So we then cut to Jackson, finally him doing something interesting in the show. Jackson is going on to make his way in front of Derek's home to eventually just kind of be upset that whatever Derek did to him, it didn't work out. And he's just kind of upset about it. All of a sudden, there is this door opening, and Chris is there and pulls Jackson in. With also these two men with these guns. So Chris grabs Jackson and is to say, it's like, well, I hope you're not really getting into, Jackson, what I think you're getting into. Very much being cryptic about it, because he doesn't want to say right away if he's not doing what he's doing anyway. So anyways, just kind of leaving it very vague here. So Chris says, Jackson, you know what? You got a lot going for you. You get to be a captain of the lacrosse team, and he's like co-captain. He has to kind of hesitate, and because he has to actually say, he's like, well, I'm a co-captain. So Chris is to go on and say that he has so much going on for him, but really, just like, hey man, I hope you see your value in your life, because we'll quite easily end it. So Styles is making his way to Boyd's place and is knocking at the door, and he's stopped by Erica. Here's the fun scene where Erica's going on like, "Oh, you're looking at my eyes. Like, aren't you looking at any other part of my body, Styles?" So So here's where Styles knows that Erica knows about Boyd and knows that Boyd is going to be next. And so as Styles tries to leave, knowing that Boyd is not there and Erica is just there, just intimidating him, Erica tells Styles that he can't leave because he's going to have a bit of car trouble, as she shows a car piece, having Styles realize that he's not going to be able to drive his car. And she also knocks him out. So we now cut to Dr. Allen. Dr. Allen is to make his way into his veterinarian hospital, and he finds a human corpse, and he finds that there's claws through the chest. And so Dr. Allen says, "I don't think you know where this is. This is a normal, this is a veterinarian hospital, not a normal hospital." And Chris is to mention out of the shadows, like, we all know that you're more than just a veterinarian. So we now have Boyd, who is going on and being on a Zambino or whatever that goofy vehicle is, Zamboni, whatever that thing is that people drive around the ice. So Scott calls out to Boyd, saying that they need to talk. And next thing we see here is Derek, Erica, and Isaac. So it's kind of ironic. Like, Derek goes on and mentions about a whole, like, well, hey, if you're gonna review me, if anything, at least take a consensus. So it's kind of ironic how I'm technically reviewing Derek right now, and he's like, well, if you're gonna review me, like, man, would that be a fun clip to go on and put in place in every one of the front of these videos if I had that kind of ability. But anyways, so Erica says ever since she's met Derek, everything then on out has been transformational. And Isaac mentions about how he's bummed about being a fugitive, but everything else has turned out very great for him. So Scott realizes that at some point soon he's going to have to face off against Erica and Isaac. And Scott has to mention how, like, well, numbers game, and this is kind of an unfair fight. And as they start fighting it out, Scott has to mention how it's actually an unfair fight for them and how he's going to easily take them down, because Scott is more experienced in this than they are, as well as also, like, Scott, like, you would think that everybody that would start to get involved in these kind of things would eventually take karate. That's never a thing I see in any, like, superhero or supernatural thing. Like, nobody goes on and starts learning taekwondo or something like that, unless they're getting trained like Buffy the Vampire Slayer is. Then that's different. But any other time, yeah, like we'd always go on to never see anybody take actual karate classes to try to up their game or anything. But anyways, so unless you're watching Karate Kid and then or Cobra Kai or anything like that, then that's duh. Anyways, so after a few times of Erica and Isaac getting tossed around here, because that's all that really happens here. There's sometimes where Isaac gets the upper hand on Scott, but yeah, most of the time it's just Scott throwing them around. So after both Erica and Isaac have kind of been taken care of, Scott is to be mentioning about how Derek is just using them and that all he wants is power and they're basically just bodies to Derek. They're just extra bodies for him that he really doesn't care about them. So Derek is to mention, it's like, well, yeah, like I am in a hunt for power. So Derek goes on and is to have his eyes glowing red and then transforms. Derek starts to fight Scott, and eventually Scott gets knocked onto the ground, and Derek puts his leg over Scott's throat. So inevitably Derek walks away, and Scott tells Boyd not to join not to join with Derek and don't be like them. And Boyd is like, well, I'm not. I'm being like one of you. So Boyd is to reveal that he was to have gotten bitten, and at some point he will be a werewolf. And he'll show his yellow eyes at some point in these episodes. So we find that Stiles has found his way into a dumpster, and he's getting his way out of it. So Scott makes his way back to the veterinarian hospital, and he now has a horrible wound that he needs to try to figure out how to heal, because it's not healing quick enough. Dr. Allen says that he's not healing quickly, Scott is, because he's to have been attacked by the Alpha, which makes his wounds less harder to heal. But Dr. Allen goes on and gives Allen a way to help him heal quicker by giving him certain medications. Scott has asked Dr. Allen, it's like, wait a minute, like, how is it that you know all this? And Dr. Allen's like, well, let's just say that I know a little bit more about werewolves and such like that. So, not exactly going into detail, but anyways, let's push on here. So, Jackson goes on to figure out if he has superhuman abilities or not. So, Jackson goes on to take his lacrosse stick and the lacrosse ball or whatever they do with lacrosse. Is it a mitt? Is it like one of those badminton things? I have no idea. So Jackson goes on and keeps chucking ball or whatever it is into trying to get to this red hole, and it doesn't go in. So Jackson eventually tries to push this car and he falls over. So Jackson at one point just gets so angry that he tries to lift the truck, and it all of a sudden actually lifts astonishingly high. So Jackson then realizes that he's like, wait a minute. So I do have superhuman abilities. But am I a werewolf or not? Like, or he thinks that he must be. So it's like, it's a little bit of confusing. But if anything, we'll find out that Jackson is to be something different, but it isn't going to be a werewolf. So that'll be interesting of the reveal of what that will be later on. Um, anyways, so we then cut to the next episode. I'm not going to go on and say what the titles of these episodes are. I'm just going to say the next episode. They'll be the fourth episode. So we begin this episode with Dr. Allen going on and helping Scott out with his wound. And I've already kind of said all this dialogue, so I'll just kind of cut through this. So Chris and Geralt make their way back to the veterinarian hospital. So Scott has to just kind of disappear. So in this bit of dialogue, we have Dr. Allen speak to these guys about the cause of death of this guy to try to figure it out. So they're talking about the killer and they're possibly thinking about what age range the killer is. And Dr. Allen is to say, like, well, there could be a killer in all ages. So here's where he mentions the scar on the neck. And whatever it is this that is doing this is actually having paralyzing toxins to people, and that's what's going to inevitably kill them. And it disables all their motor functions. So if anything, this doesn't seem like a normal werewolf would go on and be doing this. So uh so if anything, at this point I'm trying to figure out what else to say here. uh Dr. Allen is telling the guys that if anything, whatever this is, they should be afraid of it. And so we now cut to Styles. Styles is going on and making his way to this mechanic, and there's a lot of car gibberish here that is to be completely lost by me because I'm not a car guy. So Styles inevitably goes on and finds that there's gonna be a bill to his car for 1,200, and Styles is just so very like upset about that, and so Styles is talking about like, wait a minute, like, aren't you doing way more work than you actually should be doing? And the mechanic is like, well, yeah, your car needs an overhaul, and so the more the mechanic is talking about the specificities, the special nature of the repair, Styles is to eventually kind of argue with him, and then eventually gets to the point where the mechanic is like, well, hey, I know what I'm doing, like, I know like why I'm saying what I'm saying. So Styles is forced to walk off here, and he opens this door to have all this goop or this ooze or this stuff just on his hand. So Styles doesn't think anything of it, and he just kind of wipes it on his hoodie, and then walks off. Styles finds in this picture that this mechanic guy was to be a former lacrosse player. It's like, of course he is. So as Styles starts texting on his phone, he all of a sudden notices that his hands are having problems moving. So we start to see the Kamina make its way into the garage. So at some point the mechanic goes on to start hearing some noises and is calling out. Styles is to be calling out to the floor as he's eating it right now because he's fallen down to the ground because again he's started to become paralyzed. Styles has his phone in front of him and eventually he will try to call 911. So the mechanic ends up getting slashed in the back of the neck. He falls over and the Kamina adjusts the car lifting thing. I don't know what exactly this term of phrase is called. To eventually start to go down on the mechanic to crush him, and eventually will kill him slowly but surely. So the mechanic will be continuing to scream out help as Styles will be trying to call 911. Eventually, the Kamina will spot Styles, but eventually will just walk off. So, because inevitably it's not after Styles, it's after this mechanic guy for some odd reason. So, now we cut to Allison. Allison goes on and breathes on her window to have a thing to be shown on her window that says 9 p.m., a message left her by Scott. So, as Allison gets into her car, it's 8:55, and then all of a sudden there's a booga booga! Somebody that scares her. It's none other than her own grandfather, Gerald. So, Gerald is like, oh, I'm sorry, I scared you. And so, Allison gets out of her car. Gerald's like, oh, good that you're here. If anything, we can have some moments to just talk to one another. So, Scott looks, and his phone is to showcase 9 o'clock. And Allison is not there. Scott is like, oh, okay, all right, I'll just be looking around and just kind of wait a little bit longer. Like, I'm sure Allison will come here at some point, right? So, as Gerald is talking to Allison, all of a sudden he drops this book. And Allison picks it up for him. And Gerald's like, oh, it's a good thing that you saw this. Like, if anything, like this book is very valuable to me. And immediately when we're looking at this book, we're thinking that this is the book that has all the information that all of his family is to go on a need from. But if anything, it'll actually be just a cookbook, and it'll be a lie. So Gerald goes on and talks about how he was Allison's age and how he never needed a vitamin in his life, but now at his age, he needs to go on and take medication 4 times a day, or 3 or 4 times a day. So, so, if anything, Gerald is going on and talking about how he sees something very much in Allison, and that if anything, at some point she should probably be more challenged. And they talk about trust and that maybe she should be questioning the trust of people even close to her, friends, and so on and so forth. So Gerald has asked Allison if he can trust her, and Allison is like, well, yeah. And Geralt is like, don't give me that yeah. Like, yes or no. Like, and he goes on and he does it in a very condescending way. He makes fun of her. Yeah. He's like, yeah. Like, no. You have to give me yes or no. And Allison says, yes, you can trust me. And then we cut to Sheriff Noah talking to Styles. So Sheriff Noah goes on and asks questions to Styles about what had happened, and eventually Styles leaves out the whole lizard monster thing. He never brings that up. So, if anything, Styles just says that he didn't see anything. And so Sheriff Noah's like, well, like, is there something you're not telling me? And Styles is like, no. It's like, can I leave now? So Styles is asking Sheriff Noah if he can leave with his car, and Sheriff Noah's like, yeah, we have to impound your car because evidence, because a guy was killed by it. So now we have Allison making her way to where Scott was supposed to meet her at, and there's a rock that said, couldn't wait, missed you. Allison reads it, and then she kind of pushes around the words so it kind of it wipes off. So Scott meets with Styles, and Styles goes on to mention to Scott what he had actually saw, the reptile. So Styles mentions how he thinks that the reptile or the Kamina knows who Styles is because the way that the creature had looked at him, like Styles was familiar to him. So if anything, they know that much that the Kamina is somebody they know. But if anything, they won't exactly know who it is right here and now. So now we cut to Isaac. Isaac is going on and doing this weird jumping around thing and then attacking, or what looks like attacking Derek by the end of this. But we find that Derek keeps grabbing Isaac and throwing him to the ground. So Isaac continues to go on and keeps doing the same pattern of stuff over and over and over again, and Derek keeps grabbing him, throwing him to the ground. And then Derek is going on and saying, like, well, hey, can't any of you be more spontaneous? Like, can't you be more, like, random? So eventually Erica gets up, jumps onto Derek, and starts kissing him. I guess that's some kind of improvisation. So Derek goes on and thrusts Erica to the ground and says never to do that again. So Boyd gets up after Derek does that to Erica, and so Derek is telling, or oh right, so Isaac is going on saying like, well, hey, can we kind of end practice here because I have to go on and I have to wait for all my 100 bones to heal. And Derek goes on and breaks his arm. It's like, okay, you have 101 bones to heal. So Derek is going on and telling Isaac and Erica that he's training them like this for a purpose. That he feels that there's something big coming on the horizon, and he feels that he needs them at their best. And he needs to train them in everything that he knows, and he needs to do that very quickly. Because something is coming that he's not very aware of now. But anyways, so Lydia's mom, who I believe is Natalie in the credits, I'm not quite sure. I kind of glazed through it quickly. So I'll go with Natalie. If I'm wrong, you can correct me in the comments below. Natalie goes on and is to see Lydia in her bed. Natalie is to uncover Lydia from her bed, and she finds that there's blood coming somewhere, and it's not her time of the month, it seems. So Lydia, it seems, is bleeding from her hand, and Natalie and Lydia find out that Lydia had broken Lydia's mirror, and that's where the reason for the blood. So Lydia, shortly thereafter that, is going to this guidance counselor, I guess, to be seeking some kind of therapy out. I don't know what this really is or why she's doing it. So Lydia is sitting next to this guy who I'm not quite sure is going to have any importance later on, but I really couldn't find his name quite so anywhere. So if he's going to have some kind of thing attached to Lydia, I just am to go on and be like, well, next time. But Lydia's talking to this guy, and he's asking her kind of like what her damage is. And it seems that Lydia is to go on and be like, well, my damage is for people asking me asking me about my personal life. So the guy ends up coming clean to Lydia, and then Lydia ends up getting called into this guidance counselor. So here's where Stiles runs to Scott and is to say to him what Allison is to want to say to him through Stiles. Uh so Stiles says stuff like, I because I love you, and I love you more than, oh God, yeah, oh come on. So uh so uh Scott ends up asking Styles like, well, hey, what about the game tonight? And Styles says, yes, Allison's coming to the game. Like, yeah, there we go. Like, I said everything that you wanted to know. So Scott is happy about Allison coming to the game, and so Allison is also talking about how Geralt had dropped this book, and immediately they think that the book has something to do with a bestiary, like a diary, but a diary of monsters that they've kind of recorded over time. So Scott thinks that it's another word that's to kind of deal with animal sex, and that's weird. And Styles is like, no, that's not what I said. So Styles goes on to explain what the book is, and that it's a book full of monster knowledge, and then has to go back to Allison and explain that book again to her. So he has to re-explain this stuff twice. So Lydia goes on to meet up with her guidance counselor, who is French Canadian. I'm sure mostly Canadian, because if anything, this is probably filmed in what, uh, God, the like all the other shows, they're always filmed in a certain Canadian location. Uh, God, what is it? I think it starts with a V, right? Um, I can't think of it. God dang it. I wanted to sound like I was really smart here, but I wasn't. Uh, Vancouver? I don't know. Uh, somewhere in Canada, they always film things. Is this another place where they filmed this? Like, not that this show is, but like I'm just saying, like filmed this. Um. Anyways, uh, so they're talking about how this therapist or this guidance counselor is French Canadian, and that she has a master's in behavioral psychology. So the more and more that they talk, Lydia is to come up with this own phrase that'll do her some good. And the guidance counselor is like, wow, like where have you got that uh bit of saying from? Like it seems like you really like it really was profound to you. And Lydia's like, yeah, it was. So uh we have Jackson. Jackson goes on, meets up with a guy by the name, I think, of Danny. I have to say that as a question mark. You can correct me in the comments below. So Jackson is to meet up with Danny, and it was kind of funny how like Danny is to say to Jackson, it's like, well, yeah, you're not my type, and then Jackson's like, I'm everyone's type. Yeah, when he's not off to the left, just kind of just like I'm gonna, or he's eating apples and whispering sweet nothings. He's everyone's type. So, uh, so they're talking about the recording because Jackson had given Danny the recording to watch, and Danny won't come to find anything from it. But then when Danny goes on and meets up with Matt, they'll find out that the tape actually has some missing footage from it. There's supposedly 2 hours of missing footage that was cut off or was looped. And they'll figure that out. So here's where Allison goes on, meets up with Styles, and they talk about the bestiary. So Allison describes the book to Styles, and so uh so Allison goes on and meets up with Gerard because they're going to the lacrosse game together. So Gerard mentions to Allison that he doesn't know the game that well, and that he'll have to like teach her about what the game is, which that's a nice kind of like family kind of thing where it's like, hey, it's like you got to talk to him about the sport because he's just unfamiliar with it. So that's actually kind of cool. That actually seems like a good thing to write in here. So here's where Jackson is going on to meet up with Matt and Danny, and they talk about the 2 hour loop that was missing. So now we cut to the lacrosse game. So there is one of the Beavers players that is kind of this colossal like guy that is just beating the out of everybody. That's like really just bashing the crap at everyone. So Coach Bob is saying like, "Hey, there's no way that guy is of age," and and this and that. He's trying to figure out he must be steroid up or something. Like there's something up about that guy. So they end up calling him an abomination, and then later they end up bringing up the whole abomination later on because they recall back to that. So Jackson turns to Scott and says like, "Well, hey, like you know if this guy's to like be like unusually strong and if anything like who knows like if he's on the sauce or anything." So Jackson's telling Scott, it's like, well, hey, like since you have your abilities, like how about you go and uh how about you even things up? How about you take on that guy and take him out? And like it doesn't really matter if it seems like cheating, like still, like if you have these abilities, you might as well use them. So Allison is going on and saying to Geralt, her grandfather, you know, I'm feeling a little cold. And so Geralt's like, well, hey, how about I give you my coat? So Allison goes on and starts thumbing through Gerard's coat and finds these keys and hands them over to Styles. So Geralt goes on and asks Allison, is this game always so violent? So Matt, the photographer, is taking a few photos, and Mrs. Call is there, and it seems that Matt has an interest in Allison, and he's taking a photo of her. And he goes and mentions it's like, hey, yeah, I only take pictures of something that I really like, and he's taking a picture of Allison. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes, where that thing feeds into. So Styles is going on and running to get into the principal's office or the office, wherever that office is. So all of a sudden, Styles is to bump into Lydia, who's crying in her car. Styles is to try to comfort Lydia and to take time instead of going off to where he should be to talk to Lydia and to say it's like, oh, well, she looks beautiful when she cries, and he's trying to really be nice to her. And then eventually he goes on to say, hey, give me 5 minutes because I'm going to go on. I need to do something, and then I'll come back. So at some point, as the Beaver massive guy is just destroying a lot of people uh, on the Beacon Hills team here, Coach Bobby is going on to one of the guys and saying like, hey, how many fingers am I holding up? And the guy says 4, and Coach Bobby says you're supposed to say 2, and he says 2. It's like, okay, you can play because they only have so many people on this team. So at some point, Coach Bobby is kind of looking around for Styles, and he's gone. So at one point now, Coach Bobby is just looking at the crowd and is saying like, "Hey, you there, Boyd, like, suit up." So yeah, like I don't know if this is quite right. If somebody could just randomly just suit up, if if they if they're just enrolled in the school, that doesn't seem right. Like you can't just find random people and just be like, okay, suit up. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Uh, like I don't know. I think I'd have to go through like sports rules and see if that logically makes sense or not. So Styles goes on and looks through the office and notices that there's nothing there but Erica. And so Erica says, hello, Styles. And then we cut to the behemoth, who is the Beaver's guy who's really crushing through people. So Boyd goes on and faces off against the Abomination and goes on to take him out. The problem is that his eyes start to glow yellow, and Boyd takes his helmet off, and like it's kind of a cool effect that like however probably cold or whatever this place is, like there was like smoke or whatever just kind of coming off of his head. It looked really cool. Um but if anything, I'm kind of concerned about like the weather conditions of where they were at actually. Even though it doesn't really matter. So Derek goes on and meets up with Styles with Erica, and Derek has a basketball in his hand, weirdly enough. But the whole reason for this basketball was for Derek to just have his claws out and pop the basketball. So Derek is trying to threaten Styles here to explain what it is that he had seen at the garage shop. And so now we cut to Boyd. Scott is trying to tell Boyd to get off the field because his eyes are glowing and somebody will see that he's a werewolf. But if anything, they stick to playing the game anyways. People are saying to give the ball to McCall, and eventually, when they do, the abomination goes on and crashes into McCall. McCall's leg is supposedly like bent backwards. It looks like his leg is broken. It actually does look really nasty. And like for me to have been a guy with kind of bad knees and I've twisted an ankle and all kinds of stuff, like this just looks really bad. But anywho, uh, everybody just starts storming the field. There's a flag on the play or whatever penalty. Something I don't know what this sport actually has. But anyways, so I don't know about lacrosse. Like I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you. It's not the specialty sport that I have in my brain noggin. So uh, so people start storming the field. Allison makes her way to Scott, and Scott is telling Allison, "It's like okay, like my leg is healing. It's fine. It's healing fast." So as Scott starts to get up, Coach Bobby and Miss McCall is like, "Hey, you shouldn't be getting up right now. If anything, like Miss McCall has mentioned about how she heard the bone snapping from where she was in the stands." So Scott mentions how he's fine, and eventually it seems that Scott has to kind of get away from this without having to cause too much suspicions. So Styles is going on and talking to Derek and Erica. So Styles mentions about what he saw, the reptile with dark skin and patterns and the more and more that he starts talking about the eyes and everything like that. So Derek and Erica start looking up. And Styles is like, oh, it kind of looks like the way you're looking at me feels like what I'm saying here is matching something that you have already seen. And Derek and Erica are like, well, yeah, we're looking at it right now. And the Kamala opens his mouth, yells out a scream, and then starts attacking Erica, dropping her down. Uh, Derek ends up getting hit in the back of the neck, and Styles grabs Derek, and the two of them go thrusting into the water. Styles has his phone outside of the pool, and Styles is now trying to hold both Derek and Styles above water. So they're trying to figure out where it is. They're trying to keep looking around to try to figure out where the Kamala or the Kamina is. They'll come to find that weirdly the thing is afraid of water and it won't go into the water. And so we then cut to uh, Chris uh, and Allison's mother. That eventually come to find that Allison, Geralt, and Scott are at the dinner table because Geralt wanted to ask him one last question. So as they make their way to the dinner table, and this is to be the most quiet and uncomfortable kind of dinner they've had. And it's kind of interesting how like Geralt's dialogue here is talk about like, well, yeah, when I was a teenager, and how he's talking about how he should probably be old fashioned, but he's okay with Allison and Scott kind of leaving to go on and do what they're going to do. But if anything, uh, they talk about how Scott and Allison broke up, and Scott mentions about how Allison was dumped by him. So Now back with Derek and Styles, their struggle of staying above water, literally. So Derek knows that Styles is gonna go possibly after his phone, but Derek is also realizing like, well, hey, when you do that, you're probably gonna let me drown, and if anything, I'm gonna be the only one being against this Kamina because you're not gonna be able to fight against it. So if anything, you should probably keep me alive instead of going on and going after the phone. So and they make that realization. So it may not be here, but it may be at some point. Because looking at that dialogue, that doesn't probably match up with much of what I'm saying. But regardless, that's eventually some of the dialogue that at some point happens. I'm paraphrasing usually just to get freaking done with this, because I'm kind of almost at the very end, anyways. Uh, yeah, I'm hugely paraphrasing because uh, they talk about drowning. Uh, they're talking about Derek probably drowning because they're in 8 feet of water right now, and that's kind of mostly what they're talking about right now. So, and they're kind of curious what the monster is waiting for, why it's not getting in the water. But anyways, so Chris is saying that maybe Allison didn't exactly dump Scott, maybe they just grew apart. They start referencing stuff like Romeo and Juliet, but or Geralt does, and Chris is just like, well, the way that story ended with the double mass self deaths. Yeah, I don't want to kind of bring up that kind of tale for how that ended. So Chris has Scott go into the kitchen for dessert, and here's where Scott grabs Scott by the throat, and so Chris is gonna say, "Yeah, my grandfather doesn't know who you are, but if anything, like maybe I should probably tell him, and then try to earn his trust later on." Um, so back with Derek and Styles, all the dialogue that is really going on here is them talking about how the creature can't swim, so I don't need to say much with that. Uh, here's where Allison mentions that she's going to go on and be excused, and she wants to bring Scott along with her uh, because there is some stuff that she needs help with for school, and she's hoping that Scott will be able to help her. So here's where Geralt mentions about the whole old fashioned thing. It's like, hey man, I should probably be the one old fashioned, but if anything, the two of you go up there. Go ahead, you guys go up there. So Allison and Scott go into her grandfather's room to look through and rummage through all of it. They can't find the book, so they go into the case and or this case, this vault, this lockup thing. So Scott is somehow with his super hearing because werewolf be able to unlock the case and then or get the combination to the whatever the safe is. Safe. That's what I meant. Safe. So Allison goes on, makes a joke to Scott like, well, hey, maybe you and I can knock over some banks, right? So they go on and they look through the book and they realize that it's a cookbook. And so like, oh well. And so Geralt has mentioned about how 2 days he's been preparing for this meal and it's so worth it. So now we finally have Styles that ditches Derek and lets him drown, and then goes for his phone and tries to call Scott. Scott answers the phone and says, "I'm sorry, I can't talk to you right now," and he hangs up. You would think that Styles would then call 911, but I guess can't do that either. Hoping that maybe the 911 phone call would probably scare people off, but then again, maybe not. So, or scare the monster off, but maybe not. Anyways, so Styles throws his phone and it falls in the water, and then Styles rushes back to Derek. Derek says to Styles, "Tell me you got him." You don't want to hear the answer to that. So Allison said to Scott that maybe it's not a book that uh, that Geralt has. Maybe it's actually just a USB. So they realize that the USB is on the keys. They need to go all the way back to get the keys. So the two of them leave. So Scott mentions that he needs to go on and pick up his mother at the hospital, and he needs to leave. And as he does, Geralt says how nice of a guy that Scott is. Scott makes his way to the school and is to try and call Styles, which of course there's no answer because the phone is in the pool. Scott makes his way back to the office to get to the keys, and then all of a sudden overhears Styles and Derek probably screaming for help. So Styles is now exhausted at this point for kind of trudging water to keep the two of them afloat. So Styles tries to grab on like this diving board like thing to try to hold on. And here is where Scott comes in, grabs the two of them, and then we now see that he's transformed into a werewolf. So Scott faces off against the Kamina, and a mirror breaks. Scott grabs a mirror piece and is to want to face off against the Kamina. As the Kamina, it seems, is to look at the reflection, that's what gets the thing to go away. So shortly thereafter that, both Scott and Styles look at the USB and find out that yes, it is the bestiary book that they wanted. Hopefully they make copies or download whatever this is. And so Scott and Styles figure out that it's a Kamina, and Derek knows what it is also. And Scott is like, "Well, how do you know that?" And it was all about the way that it looked confused looking at its own reflection. So that's what made it to be that it is to be this monster. So Derek has heard of this monster before, but it was all just rumors. And it's supposedly a shapeshifter, uh, but it's really just an abomination. They come to that conclusion. So Scott is mentioning that maybe they should try to team up with the Argents to try and take this thing down. And Derek wants none of that. If anything, he wants to find this thing himself and kill it. That's all he cares about. So we cut to Scott, who's finally to have made his way to pick up his mother at the hospital. And as Scott gets out of the car, he's met with a blade to the chest. And Geralt tells Scott, "Don't move." if anything, this blade is kind of healing around your wound. So Geralt is saying like, well, hey, like let's pretend that I am a grandfather to a grandson and you're just picking me up at the hospital. Let's pretend this for anyone else who doesn't know any better. So if anything, like Geralt goes on and on about um how he's I'm sure he's probably been told stories about how sweet and charming he is, and how Scott is more than just some average broken-hearted teenage boy. So Geralt goes on to say that he is willing to kill Scott's mother if it means that uh, if anything that Scott does is to be a bad thing. Like, so here's where Geralt goes on and says like, hey, let's not have bad things come to good people. And then he goes on and takes the blade out, and then he disappears. And then Scott's mother comes up like, oh, hey, yeah, you okay? So we see that Scott is bleeding, and it continues to just drip on the screen, and further, just like there's blood that just starts to cover the screen, and then we just end the episode. So that's it. I think I'm gonna finally go on and end this here. Whew, thank goodness, because I had to redo a good chunk of this review now because I just tried to do it, and then it just bizarrely just cut off at some point, so I had to redo the whole bit of footage. So I'm happy that this is done, but ultimately, I didn't think I came up with a good consensus of what I thought about these episodes. I just kind of like I just explained it. Uh, but if anything, if people couldn't tell by the way I was talking about the episodes, like I really like this show. I'm so happy that I can continue it, and I hope that people will watch this. I'm so happy that I can also get this uploaded. So, because I was worried that I'd probably be too tired, because I kind of did this really late. Uh, so yeah, so I'll be able to get this done. I'm happy about that. I can go on and hopefully next. I think what I'm probably gonna want to tackle next is Deep Rising, because that'll be another thing that people have voted on. For me to review. I think I'm getting it. I'm getting it to it way too late. Um, if anything, there's a good number of other stuff I could be reviewing right now. That I think will do a lot better on the channel. Uh, I am just so desperate just to find a video that is going to do crazy good numbers right now. There are projects that like kind of keep clicking away, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I'm finding projects that people really do like, but I'm not finding the best ones right now. I'm really going on, and I'm like, man, I miss the days when I can go on and find projects that were like 1,000, if not thousands, of views. Uh, but I get that I have to be very patient, and I get that I have to be um, choosing wise about what I do next. But at this point, also, uh, like I think I've made way too many mistakes on this channel. Uh, that will probably do me in at some point. It's kind of just frustrating how like there seems to just be, I don't know what this is. There just seems to be like a person that just unsubscribes, and then when I put out a new video, they subscribe again, or like I don't know what that is, but like it just seems like that kind of annoys me. Where it's just like, what difference of it is waiting for when I do content and then you subscribe again? Like, if anything, it doesn't matter that you unsubscribe. But I just think that it's weird whoever keeps doing that. But oh well, like that's how people, I guess, do their whole subscribe thing. If they have so few people that they subscribe to, and if like I'm not doing content as quickly as they like it, then they unsubscribe. I guess I don't know. Like, if anything, like I feel that I can say at least that I'm trying my best at this. Like, if I can't make everyone happy, like believe me, I'm trying to figure out what is the best thing to put out there. But like, I feel like I should probably go on and actually survey people again, and survey more people, and ask them kind of what genre they're interested in next, and hoping that when I narrow this down, that everybody will profoundly want something, and I'll come to it. But even when I go on and when I do these like polls and whatever, like not everyone answers them. So it's just it's like I want to try to help every single person that is subscribed on the channel, but I don't know how to get there. I don't know how to talk to everybody. I don't know the perfect way to get to everyone. Um, and at some point, I'm just like, well, should I also just focus on trying to get new people? Because I feel like uh, when I go through analytics, I'm finding more new people than I am having people on the channel watch what I'm doing that have already subscribed. Um, because it'll be like 95 percent of people are new people, so it's just like, so I just ditch just trying to find ways to make 500 some odd people happy, because that just seems weird to me because of um how much I want to keep people here, how much I really want to go on, and I really want people's voices to be heard. Um, Even though also there's been times where people have kind of hated the fact that I've done certain things certain ways, but that could probably be somebody that probably hasn't subscribed to the channel and is just complaining to just be a troll or whatever. Um, don't know. Like, if anything, like, don't really care. Like, if anything, I'm just gonna like. There's a lot of people that just kind of rando just come to the channel and are to uh ask things or make mistakes and whatever, and I'm like, yeah, you know what, like I feel that probably people, like, everybody can have a bad day, or everybody can just be like whoever they want to be this day, and like they like I don't know, there's like people that I guess figure that I'm getting paid for this, which I'm not. I'd like to, but if anything, I don't think it's gonna happen. uh like, if anything, also, there are so many people that go on and they have big huge channels, and they say that like YouTube pays them nothing and then they have to find sponsors and all these other things to try to make money. So it's like, so what is even the point of doing YouTube at some point where it's just like you basically just need to do YouTube to get big enough numbers just so you can do all this stuff um to be popular. But like really, that's when I think when a lot of people, after they get a certain number of things, that's probably when they just clearly give up on YouTube because they can just get all this free stuff, and eventually their library of all the videos they've ever done, like eventually they'll just keep getting clicks anyways, right? Like that's why when you can see like guys like JonTron who does like a video a year or something like that, because he doesn't actually need to consistently do videos. But then again, also like uh, there are so many people that will just watch old videos of people anyways. Like I fell victim to that too, where I'll go on and well, victim, not really victim, but like I'll go on and I'll just randomly watch like a gameplay of like Markiplier or Jacksepticeye or something, and I'll just be like, no, that was nice. Because there's just some stuff that I've just like I never played a game of, or I didn't really know much about it, so I just wanted the whole backstory of it and history of it. But anyways, so uh I always kind of at the end of this, I always am to be way too honest, and also I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm very dumb. Making these videos out to be way too longer than they actually should be, and everybody complaining about it. But if anything, also you could probably just watch the first like what 20 minutes of this. I think somewhere around there. Probably wraps it up in a nice, neat little bow. But anyways, thank you for watching this because I know how challenging that is. I get that the way in which that I talk, sometimes there's some jokes in there, but also it's just set a pattern that could not exactly be exciting for everybody. So I just don't think that it's ever going to change. Sorry, this is just what I've been doing for so long. Um, if anything, I just find it weird how, like, when you look at, like, Jacksepticeye's videos, at one point, if you watch some of his, like, way earlier stuff, and then if you watch it now, what a change Jack has really been. Like, you can see in some of the other earlier videos how, like, if you watched, like, I Am Bread compared to some of his more recent stuff, like the one where he does the movie rental uh video, night and day, two different people. But if you probably look at my videos, like probably my emotions change like every day of this. Like there's some days where I'm like you can see like a weird wave of like if you watch some of the videos in order, like there's like some days where I'm like, man, I'm freaking depressed. I'm ticked off. I'm da, da, da. And then like the next video right after that is like, hey, yeah, I'm happy. Yeah, I'm cloud nine. I'm like, and it doesn't make any sense. Um, but sometimes it's maybe just a good movie or a good show that I watched. Really got me out of a funk, or maybe it was to just go on to just be the day was good or the day was shit, and I'm just trying to hide that. Because I obviously deal with depressions and a lot of things that I just am just going on and just having to just be haunted by or dealing with on a day to day basis. Like an injury I just had that I'm just kind of really recovering from, and I'm feeling good right now. Um, like, yeah, I'm sure I'll be going to sleep soon and I'll have problems getting out of bed, but that's my only problem for the whole day. Like, I'm getting back into doing cardio. That's great because I'm trying to get back down to 220. I'm trying to get back into the 220s because I'm realizing I'm getting a little fat. I let myself go a little bit. Um, and maybe it doesn't show in a lot of the pictures, but it like I know that it's there. Um, plus also like I'm just like I don't look good in pictures. Like I don't feel good. Um, and so like yeah, so I'm just trying to figure out ways to just try to look better in photos. So because I guess I have body dysmorphia, I guess. Um, Not really to the point where it's like I feel I need to seek like a person because of it, because it's just like I think we all kind of have like body dysmorphia a little bit here and there. Um, Not enough that we're gonna go to like a crazy uh extent of like for me like I don't go on and I don't think like because I would look at my body in the mirror like you know I actually like what I see and like there's sometimes where like I look at the scale I'm like 230 I'm like man doesn't look like 230 to me when I look at myself so like yeah so like I have like those back and forth days where it's just like there's sometimes where I look like I have a gut and I'm like I want to get rid of that so I want to go on and I want to get some cardio done and I want to feel good about myself um but yeah but like that's kind of a like everybody would probably feel that way. Like everybody feels that they probably have something about them that they don't like. Like I'm sure like I always get like a an ingrown hair in between my eyebrows. Um all the time. It's just like man, that is just it's so annoying to have that there because in all honesty, there's a lot of times where I have to like Photoshop my thumbnails to make myself look better. I do like because I just feel I need to. I just feel that if I do that, that I won't look appealing enough in the thumbnail for people to click into it. But like, oh, he has a, because that's the weird, goofy thing. Uh, is that I have to look appealing in the thumbnail so that way people can click into it to just eventually see me and just be like, click off. But yeah, but like at least I'm gonna go on and try to have fun with this and but if anything, I don't feel like I've heavily uh, photoshopped this as much as I might have had in the past. A lot of times I've tried to really be really smart about what I put together for me being in the thumbnail to where I don't have to Photoshop as much. So that's been good. I've been happy about that. Um, because I just feel smarter about being able to go on and figure things out. Um, I've kind of left making thumbnail adjustments for a while. I probably will have to go back to it at this point, but I feel like I've covered all my bases for that. Uh, there's hopefully Timu stuff that I'm still grinding for to still get for here, but I think a lot of it is more fun stuff than having me needing to get things uh, for specific movies and shows and stuff like that now. Plus, also, uh, Timu is kind of getting to the point to where uh, it's probably gonna have me no longer be able to get stuff from there, and that happens, that sucks, but oh well. I'll just have to realize that like this is not gonna last forever. Uh, I wished that I could have gone on and been able to like not been monetized, but been able to have a big enough following to where it would matter, to where I could just go on and just get something from something somewhere, um, just so that way it could help me with the channel. Um, I don't want to say like get money sponsored. I just want free items, like just free items, just to help me. That's all I care about. Um, like if anything, I don't want like I don't want I don't care for people to sponsor me. Um, I don't think they will anyways. Uh, like if anything, it feels like 500 people have sponsored me at this point. But uh, but yeah, but like I'm just like I want stuff. I would love to just have stuff. Um, like I guess all the YouTubers have people just like just send them things just all the time. Or they go to signings and they send them things. But that's from all those people that have really gone on and done the hard work, and like I'm just sitting here and just doing this review and expecting the same thing. Um, and that's kind of barbarian to really go on and ask any of that. But also, I don't feel like I'm deserving of getting those items or getting those things. But like, and I'm not asking anybody to buy me anything. I'm saying like I want to find a place where I can grind for it or something that was like Timu for a very long time, that I can still go on and get items. Like that's all I'm saying. Like I'm not saying for anybody to buy me things. That's stupid. Because no one's gonna do that. Well, I've gotten like gifts and holidays still from family members, but um, because I guess I'm just a mooch. But um, but yeah, but I would like to figure out a way to just keep getting stuff for free. Um, if there is some like, I think there is like a Sheen or something like that, but like I don't think that that gives free stuff. I've been through Sheen, and that doesn't really like that doesn't appeal to me by what it does. But anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy.